Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Show. You are listening to the first and only podcast dedicated to the business of pharmacy. Be sure to subscribe to the show via iTunes and leave us a voice comment from our contact section on the website. You can find all of our episodes at pharmacypodcast.com.
Hi, welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Show. I'm your host, Blair Thielemier of Pharmapreneur Academy. I am so excited today to welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Genevieve Johnson, who is the Central Regional Director of Pharmacy Acquisition for the Retail Independent segment of Cardinal Health, as well as Eden Sulzer, the Director of Cardinal Health Women in Pharmacy Initiative. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Blair.
Thank you.
Well, I am excited to talk to you. I'll give everyone, the listeners, a little bit of background. Today, the day that we're recording this, is International Women's Day. So when we first connected, we got to talking about women in pharmacy and the Cardinal Health Initiative to help women in pharmacy either start their own independent businesses or just move forward with their entrepreneurial endeavors. So can you tell us a little bit about the opportunities that exist in entrepreneurship and community pharmacy today for women in pharmacy?
Absolutely, Blair. So we really saw an opportunity, in particular in the retail independent community, where there's a demographic shift certainly going on in a lot of those pharmacies. A good portion of them are owned by men who are nearing retirement. It really, and those community pharmacies play such a critical role in delivering care to both urban and rural communities. And we think who better than to step into those opportunities than women. And women are now really the majority of pharmacists. Women make up more than 57% of pharmacists. And we believe, based on the success that women have had as independent pharmacy owners, we feel very excited and really feel it is our mission and our duty to help more women seize that opportunity to be pillars of their community, to be healthcare providers, and are just very excited and pleased to be able to do these things and grow a very exciting, dynamic community of women.
Right. And one statistic that you gave me that I was very surprised at. So pharmacy is right now at 57% predominantly female pharmacists, but the ownership level among female pharmacists is in the 20% range. So that's a huge gap, a huge opportunity there in the market that exists.
That's right. That's right. And we haven't seen a lot of progress. And that's where we really started asking some questions around what are the barriers that women face, and how can we help? How can we address some of those barriers and bring in tools and resources? And we've got a long way to go, but I am encouraged when I talk with, we're starting to get more and more calls and emails and people who are saying, I heard about this Women in Pharmacy program, or I've been thinking about opening up a business, and I want to talk to somebody. And that's where we really can jump in and facilitate conversations, mentorships. Women are visiting each other at their pharmacies, trying to learn more about new things they can be doing. So yeah, I mean, we still have a lot of ways to go. And in some ways, I think that pharmacy is changing, and there's many ways to be an entrepreneur in pharmacy, as you know, Blair, and owning a brick and mortar pharmacy is one. But, certainly lots of other neat opportunities like telepharmacy, consulting. I think, there's so much need for primary care for, in our communities. And as I like to say, who better to serve them than female pharmacists?
I absolutely agree. And, that's one thing that I do in my work is finding pharmacists who are doing things differently. They're, adding health and wellness consulting services in their community pharmacy, or they're doing pharmacogenomic testing services in a physician's office setting. So, part of my job as, a host here on the Pharmacy podcast and a teacher at the Pharmapreneur Academy is to find these stories and to find these women and these pharmacists who are using their knowledge and really making an impact on their patients in totally new ways. So, just talking with these people, it's so inspiring. One of the pharmacies here I work with locally in Arkansas, after, me sharing just a few simple business tips about how to get started with a cash-based service, she decided that she wanted to offer fertility counseling to women who are trying to conceive in her local area. And, it's something that had been kind of brewing in the back of her mind for a long time. But what she really needed was, that push and that permission, and hearing that other people were doing it and that it was okay to, kind of figure things out along the way, that she didn't have to have all the answers. But I think that it gave her the inspiration and the motivation to move forward. So I think that's really important, a really important reason why we need to share our stories and our ideas with each other as well.
Agree. And that really is, what Women in Pharmacy brings to the table. And we're facilitators. But the three things we like to talk about are information, inspiration, and network. And we've seen women come together and problem solve and really boost each other up, learn from each other, pilot things, and we put some tools out there, some events, some resources, and women are taking these things and running with them. So collaboration is something that we get to see on a daily basis, where there's a lot of cooperation. Everybody, everybody wants to help and see each other succeed. And there's many different ways to succeed, as you mentioned. Pharmacy can be very creative. There's a lot of needs. There's a lot of opportunities with clinical services, and I think it's a very exciting time to be a pharmacist.
It definitely. I love hearing all the stories of what the different pharmacists in you guys have a Women in Pharmacy Facebook group that it's very active. It's, a lot of women sharing ideas and what's working for them. So it's very exciting to see these new models of clinical pharmacy and seeing how people are putting their own creative spin on them. So can you talk a little bit more about the specific networking opportunities that you guys provide for women in pharmacy?
I sure can. So you mentioned our Facebook community, which has really grown over the years, and it's owners, it's pharmacy students, it's pharmacy professors and technicians and everyone in between. And everyone is welcome to join and contribute. We also have events that we hold across the country at associations, state pharmacy associations, as well as the trade associations like APHA and NCPA and others. And we hold networking events where we bring together people in a room, and it's kind of like speed networking. Owners meeting aspiring owners, students meeting other students, and really we've seen some neat relationships form out of those networking events, where people will say, "Hey, I know that you were interested in, getting a job or getting some experience in X, and I thought of you when I met you at that event, and things are happening." The other opportunity we have are what we call our pharmacy ownership boot camps. Jen is a partner of mine in those, where we're educating people, men and women, on what does it take to own a pharmacy. What are sort of the aspects of entrepreneurship? How do you know that it's the right path for you? And then what does it look like in terms of how much money do you need? What are the different ways to do it? And then we always end with a panel discussion of owners who share their tips and tools and really can help encourage maybe some people that are sitting on the fence about whether or not it's the right path. So those are all different opportunities that we have to help people connect.
It sounds like that would be a very helpful service for, the pharmacists out there who's kind of always thought, what would ownership be like? So having those boot camps. Jen, can you talk a little bit about what those boot camps are like and how pharmacists can really start building their business acumen?
Definitely. Thank you, Blair. So number one, we want our buyers to have a plan. Okay, so who is on their team? Do they have attorneys, CPA, wholesaler partners, business partners, mentorship through the WIN program? But we really need a plan of your team, a plan of your business, right? If you're looking at the different paths to ownership, so are you going to purchase an existing pharmacy or start up a pharmacy? Have you looked at junior partnerships? Or maybe it's going to be purchase an investment pharmacy. So once you've decided on that path of ownership, then we need to build a financial plan. And that financial plan can include a business plan. It can include financial projections. And then, as you talked about earlier, really exploring those niche markets and services. So we're not just a retail independent pharmacy filling prescriptions. We're really diversifying. So the next really big piece to the puzzle is, where does the person want to live and operate their business? And location, unfortunately, sometimes is a drawback. So we have 1,000 pharmacies transitioning a year, and I may have a list of 10 to 20 potential women, entrepreneurial, but unfortunately, they don't always match location, right? Not everyone wants to move in the middle of rural America, or maybe metropolitan isn't their calling. So really, truly understanding, where do you want to operate? Who's going to be on my team? And what is my financial plan? That's step one.
So I definitely agree, thinking about what your long-term goals are as far as, do you need to have an exit strategy, or is this an investment? Will you be working full-time in the pharmacy, or, is this something where you want to work part-time and try to open multiple locations, or work in a physician's office doing collaborative practice at the same time as owning your pharmacy? It seems like there are really so many options. I guess if I was a pharmacist trying to think about, what should my absolute first step be in trying to figure out, do I want to move forward with this? It's a really big decision. So what should I sit down and consider and think about, just as you mentioned, location and time spent in the pharmacy? What are those things that I should be thinking about before moving forward with opening my own or buying my own pharmacy?
Well, we honestly like the path of purchasing an existing pharmacy the best, because there's all these unknowns of owning a business, right? And risk. And we feel like by purchasing an existing pharmacy, you can mitigate that risk. We already know the revenue of the business. We know the gross profit. We know the expenses. And when you go to buy that business, we're going to know your annualized debt payment. So by looking at all those pieces to the puzzle from day one, we can know exactly how much cash you're going to have in the business after you pay your own expenses. And unfortunately, in some of the other scenarios, we can project those, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to meet your projections. So we recommend looking at purchasing an existing pharmacy for that reason. And once you do decide, let's say you decide I'm going to purchase an existing pharmacy, then really truly the onus is on you. You want to locate a pharmacy in your region of what you want to live, and it's up to you to find the pharmacy. Right now, buyers outnumber sellers in the marketplace. So you as a buyer have to distinguish yourself and, get comfortable with the owner and let them know you're going to continue on with the legacy of their business, the employees, the town. So once you become familiar with the pharmacy and the ownership, then we're going to approach that owner and perform due diligence. So part of buying a pharmacy is coming up with a value of the pharmacy. And that pharmacy valuation needs to support the debt payment. And so there's about 15 different ways in the marketplace to value a pharmacy. But you as a buyer, and the one the seller wants to also look at, is really a multiple of cash flow. So we're going to look at an existing pharmacy. We're going to look at 3 years of financial statements. We're going to come out to what the cash flow is of the business, right? After we normalize expenses, that means we've looked at the tax returns and we've normalized anything that's out of the ordinary. And really, Blair, we had a pharmacy that had a delivery plane as a vehicle in their pharmacy. So
a plane?
When I mean about normalized, yes.
Wow.
Not every pharmacy needs a delivery plane, unless maybe you're in Alaska and you're delivering to different islands. But
Yeah.
Really, we're going to add that expense back in to come up with the true cash flow of the business. And so truly, people always ask me, well, what's a pharmacy worth? And these three things never match. But really, it's what a seller's willing to sell it for, what is a buyer willing to pay for it, and then what is the lender willing to invest in it. So we want to help, guide you through this experience and bring all the experts to the table so you can make, your most educated decision and a seamless transition of ownership.
Yeah, so
I know that was a lot of information.
No, it definitely makes sense. And I mean, I think for me, like one of my main concerns would be, I just got out of all this pharmacy student loan debt. I'm now getting myself into, a possibly multi-million-dollar loan to buy this existing pharmacy. What are some financing options for me in order to help me get this pharmacy off the ground?
So there's tons of different financing options. The ones that we typically look at is going to be like a conventional lender, your local bank, right? Mm-hmm. They lend to pharmacies, they lend for pharmacy acquisitions. Then we have SBA lenders. There's two specifically that we work with, Live Oak Bank and First Financial, and they have pharmacy lending divisions, right? So they understand pharmacy lending. They understand this idea of goodwill that you're going to buy for the pharmacy. And then the third one being wholesalers. A lot of wholesalers, if you can't meet those other requirements from the other lending, wholesalers will actually lend for pharmacies. Now you're saying, yes, I'm getting in multi-million-dollar debt. The average pharmacy is going to sell between $800,000 and $1 million. That's going to be the goodwill of the pharmacy plus inventory. So yes, $1 million's a lot of dollars. But let's start talking about how much can an owner truly make? So when we look at the average pharmacy, this is someone filling 200 scripts a day. They have 8 to 10 employees. Their annual revenue is about $3.6 million. Their net income is anywhere between 3 and 10%. So what does that mean for dollars? That means and on average, the customers I speak with are earning $250,000. So their owner's salary of $125,000 and the pharmacy profit of $125,000. That's average. Our top 10% earn $375,000.
Wow.
So
that's impressive.
There's risk associated there, but yes, that's a lot more than they can typically you can make in the chain setting.
Right. Well, that's really interesting, and that would definitely be something that would help me feel more comfortable, is having someone who's done this before. You mentioned Live Oak Bank. I believe they're a sponsor of the Pharmacy Podcast as well. And having someone who has helped me, can help me look at these financial statements and help me really understand what it is I'm looking at. So, we talked about a few points for like the transitional planning for someone who's ready to sell, but looking at it kind of backwards, you would want to, see these financial statements and start a relationship with the seller, and then really start thinking about what are the value and the key drivers that are influencing price. So can you talk a little bit about, how you guys would also help the pharmacy buyer and the seller, I guess, walk through this process and, make them feel comfortable with it? It's probably something that someone only does once in their lifetime, but you guys have a lot more experience, and you can help these pharmacists move through this process more efficiently.
Yeah, no, definitely, Blair. So this is all my team does, is really keep independence independent. And we want to match make buyers and sellers. So in my 2 years in this role, I've looked over 300 sets of financials. So I'm very familiar with what the pharmacy financials look like, the good, the bad, the ugly, the great. But truly, we want to be your partner through this process. So we could sit down together. We can deep dive into the financials. We have an analysis that we create that really gives us 3 different values of pharmacy based on key performance indicators. So what makes a pharmacy more valuable? We're going to have above average gross profit, so over 23%. We're going to have reasonable payroll, so under 10% payroll. And we're going to have a greater net operating income, or it's sometimes referred to as EBITDA. And we like to see that over 6%. So we're going to sit down, look at the KPIs. Do we have solid growth trends? Are we diversified, whether we're filling compounds? Maybe we're in a little bit of long-term care, boarding care. Are we selling front-end sales? So diversification, right? So looking at the different pieces of what the pharmacy is doing and looking to see, does this make it more valuable or less valuable? And the bank's going to do the same thing, Blair. No one wants to loan money on pharmacy for it to fail. And in the SBA business world, pharmacy lending is the one with the least default rate.
Wow.
SBA lending is usually over 10 years, and pharmacies are paid off on average of 8 years.
Wow. That's something to be proud of then.
Yeah, no, definitely. I just love working with independent pharmacies, and what we want to be an additional resource as they go through either making the decision to buy, right? Or whether it's their decision to sell their business.
Right.
And it's never really too early to start planning. So even if someone is not going to sell for 3 to 5 years, we like that window. Let's say you're not going to buy for 3 to 5 years. Again, as a seller, we want to make sure you're educated to know what your pharmacy is worth now, but what do you need it to be worth when you sell, right? So we can start making sure you have the financial fitness to support that price. But as a buyer, we can familiarize yourself with all these different lingos that are the business acumen of pharmacy, right? You come out of school, you're experts at MTM, you're experts at the clinical side, but truly now let's get your feet wet for the business. And that's how our team and Eden's team with Women in Pharmacy, that's what we're here for.
I think that's a huge part of it too. One thing that I've done a lot in my business is just listening to podcasts that have to do with business and marketing and listening. I don't read books anymore, but I listen to them in my car. So I count that as reading books. But, I just listened to another one the other day on Built to Sell, and it was kind of along the same lines as, making sure that you have trained staff members that, other people can step in to do your job. And it was a brilliant book about how to put processes and systems in place. So these little nuggets, I think, that you guys have shared today are so helpful, not just for, women in pharmacy who are wanting to own their own store one day, but just women in general who are looking to build a business that can, offer some creative outlets for us or can, help us supplement our income so that we can, have that extra vacation each year or something like that. So I'm really excited about what you guys are doing. And, can you Eden, talk a little bit about, how people can find you guys, how people can get in touch and learn more, and even where they can come to join the free Women in Pharmacy Facebook group?
Absolutely, Blair. So on the Cardinal Health website, www.cardinalhealth.com, you can put Women in Pharmacy right into the search and navigate out to our website. We've got videos, we've got testimonials, and other information. And on that, there are links to join the Women in Pharmacy Facebook page. Also, if you go right into Facebook and do a search on Cardinal Health Women in Pharmacy, it is one of the groups, and you can just click and request to join, and we will let you right in, and from there you can start interacting with Women in Pharmacy. So those are probably the easiest ways to go about it, the Facebook page and the Cardinal Health website, which has information on both Women in Pharmacy and pharmacy transition services.
Well, thank you very much. We'll put those links in the show notes and on the website as well, so that everyone, if you're driving in your car listening right now, that you can just check out the Pharmacy Podcast show notes, or we'll have it on our blog as well. We'll link back to the Cardinal website and also the Women in Pharmacy Facebook group. So, Jen and Eden, I want to thank you guys both for being here with me on International Women's Day and talking about women in pharmacy. It was a lot of fun, and I'm very excited about the work you guys are doing, and I really appreciate what you're doing to help women pharmacists.
Thank you, Blair.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Pharmacy Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to the show and send us a voice message with your ideas and comments from our contact section on the website. Did you know we develop digital health content to assist with business development and marketing efforts? Learn how we can help you drive more patients, physicians, and targeted leads to your website. Contact us today at pharmacypodcast.com.